So I read this book quite a while back, Peaks and Valleys by Dr. Spencer Johnson, and after a while, you start understanding this particular book to be even more relevant in today's time. So whoever's feeling very disheartened, or at times you're feeling that luck is not in my favor, or things are not working out well for me, or it's not going well, and I have a bad kundali or something like that. So whenever you're having these kind of feelings, this book is very relevant to that kind of a feeling when you're in a low phase of your life, and also extremely important when you're at the peak of your life also. So I'll tell you how it is working, Peaks and Valleys. It's a very short read, but after I go through this, this is more or less what the book is about, so you can skip this. So Dr. Spencer Johnson, if you're seeing Who Moved My Cheese, would be something that you could have probably heard of before. There's another one, 2 Minute Manager, 1 Minute Manager, and the third one is this one, Peaks and Valleys. So my colleague actually wrote this and reminded me of this book, which I read almost like 5-7 years back or something, and a brilliant book. It's a very short read. It's a 40-page, 50-page read. So basically the idea behind the book, I'll just tell you, and I'll just tell you the lessons basically that we need to take away from this. So everybody's life is going to be having peaks and valleys. It's never going to be a straight line. Even when you're looking at a business cycle, the cycle keeps on moving this way, and on an average we would want the economy to be growing. So ultimately you cannot have a life that is going to be an upscale, or it is going to be a mundane flat one. So it has to be an undulating surface when you're looking at your life. So it's going to be continuously, there will be peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys, and peaks and valleys. Now, the objective over here is going to be just, you could also relate it to technical analysis for those who are into stock markets and all. So it's ideally going to be that you need to reach a higher peak, a little lower, a little higher low. That's your valley should not be too low. You should have a little, even more higher peak again. And then your valley should be just a little lower, but then the peak has to be higher. You don't go down too much, but you trace up too high. That is when you're going to be scaling up your life. Peaks and valleys has to be there. Why the peaks are created in your life? How do you sustain? How do you make sure that you're on the peak for a longer duration? You don't climb down too much, right? You're at the in the valley for a lesser time frame. You climb up the peak faster and higher. So how do you do that? That is what this particular story is about. So first of all, you're not the only person who's going through lows in life. So stop feeling sorry. Again, I keep on talking about the EQ to be very, very strong today. It's extremely important. So you need to have your EQ strong, and don't think that you're the only person with issues and problems and everything in life. So that is one. You need to change your perspective about things. You have to understand that it's not that the whole world is transpiring against you or something like that. It is going to be, your life is going to be like this. You cannot have a life in a linear upward sloping manner. It's not possible. When you're looking at the peaks and valleys are going to be connected. So when you reach a peak, there is going to be a valley. When you're in the valley, there is going to be a peak. Now, how do you make that happen? So basically what happens is, the mistakes that we make today, the issue, that creates the values for us tomorrow. So today's mistakes is going to lead us to valleys tomorrow. And in the valleys, how wisely we handle our low phases. There was this question that I'll come to that actually later. There was this question that someone had asked me. I'll come back to that one. That's very interesting, because I pondered a lot about that question. So how wisely, how much are you preparing yourself? Like in your low phase, if you give up, if you just keep shut, if you don't do anything, if you're not learning, if you're not making yourself stronger in terms of EQ, in terms of knowledge, in terms of learning, in terms of reading, then you would not be able to climb the peak. So if you want to reach the peak, you will have to work your way up in the valley. You need to do that preparation when you're in the valley. So how wisely are you handling that? You cannot control external events, but what you can do is your reaction towards it, and that is what is going to be making peaks and valleys for you. Of course, external events would be there. You might slide down the valley a little extra, but then you need to climb up again, right? So even if there are external events which are transpiring against you, you need to climb that up. So there's nothing that you can do about the external events. It's only your reaction and your way of handling towards that can matter. Now, when people are at peaks, why do they come down? The most important question. Because they start feeling invincible. They lose their humility, their gratitude. They become overconfident. They think that nobody can beat them, that nobody can, push them down from that level. That is when your peak is going to be turning into valley very soon. And when you're in the valley, how do you come back to the peak? When you're appreciating the opportunities you're getting, when you're working hard, when you're learning from your mistakes, when you're not repeating the same mistake. When you have that ethics and all those value systems and all, that is going to be pushing you upwards. When you're learning from every single experience that you have. So this phase is going to be uneventful, dull, etc. but then you will have to react very positively. Otherwise, how do you reach the peak? You think about the trekking or something like that, right? That if you're very exhausted, you will take rest, but then again, you'll have to renew your energy and you'll have to again start climbing up. Because if you're not climbing up, then how do you reach the peak? So if you're going to lay flat, if you're going to be doing nothing about it, then nothing is going to happen, as in there will be no outcome out of it. So when you're at the peak, don't be overconfident. When you're in the valley, don't get too comfortable. So either ways, you have to keep running. See, life is going to be like that. You have to keep on moving forward. Again, I'm not trying to be the motivational speaker over here. I'm just trying to tell you what's there in the book. And how do you feel? So you always have to think about how are you going to be feeling when you're at the top, when you're going to be above there. So in the valley, that preparation is very, very important. So you keep on working relentlessly on yourself. And again, as I keep on saying, invest in yourself. You have to invest in yourself if you want to climb the peaks in your life. And do not overthink. So when you're in the valley, when you're in the low phase, you're overthinking a little too much. How can you be at service? How can you be of service at work? How can you do better? How can you learn better? How can you be wiser? How can you make better decision making? Again, reading, learning, investing in yourself. These things are going to be important if you want to climb the peaks. And again, think about it. The toil that you have when you're climbing up a mountain peak, and then the view and the feel that you get when you're at the peak, when you're sitting over there. Just imagine that feeling. And for that, you need to work very hard. So that is what this book is all about. And, with the question, I'm coming back to the question. So there was this girl in my class, and she asked me this question once, that her charts or astrologer or something is saying that things are not working out for her well. Although I know she's an intelligent, very hardworking girl, and still things were not working out very well for her academically. And it's going to be that way for 2 years, and that's what her astrologer said. So again, not questioning anybody's belief systems, etc. But even if assuming that it is true, let's assume that it is true. Again, everybody has his or her own belief system. But assuming it's true, and see, in different ways, people do think about it. Mera अच्छा time nahi chal raha hai. I'm not having a good time right now. I'm not going through a good phase in my life. So it's just another way of saying that, probably. So what I actually thought a lot about it, because I was feeling bad, because she was doing everything that she had in hand, and I felt bad about it. And I took a couple of days actually to think over it. And it did not strike me at that point of time that I had already read this book, Peaks and Valleys. So what I told her that it's again, I told her that it's going to be like this. So I think my this intuition or this idea came from this reading. So again, you need to read. I'm not making this up. So I told her that life is not going to be it's going to be full of ups and downs. But if you're not going to be working hard here, you're not going to be able to enjoy the peak. So I actually gave her the same idea, which of course came from the book that I had read. It was not my own idea to give. But then that is, so, the knowledge that you gain, the ideas that you gain, the intuitions that you make, build for yourself, the wisdom that you're going to get is going to come from experiences, talking to seniors in terms of your life, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years senior to you, in terms of the books that you read. That is what is going to build your decision making process. And also, as I tell you again, you're the sum of 5 people, 5 books, and the books and the people that you surround yourself with. So that's exactly what I told her. I remember the name of the girl also, and I told her, I'm sure she would be doing very well now. So that was the idea behind it, that, you have to work hard. If you don't work hard here, if you don't build your strengths and everything, if you don't do that preparation, then you will not get this phase of your life as well, right? So that is what this book is all about. So all those people feeling low, you can go through this book if you want. It's just a half an hour read or so. And even otherwise, this is what is basically communicated. So this is Peaks and Valleys by Dr. Spencer Johnson for you. There's only one part for this one.